Welcome to your 12-minute HR lesson. Today we're dealing with a really complex topic, and I'm not going to give you answers because it's just too complex. I am going to give you some things to think about, some things to look for, so you can take a nuanced and complex and wise approach to dealing with inappropriate workplace banter. Curious? Let's go. Today I want to share with you my favorite war story. And this happened to me personally. If you ever worked with me, this is my famous X story. But the problem is I can't tell you X. This is a podcast. You can talk to me one-on-one and I'll explain what X is. I can't put it out there. It's a derogatory slur. It's not a major derogatory slur. It's definitely over the line, but nothing particularly offensive. So the story goes like this. I was working in a place for a while. There was a new manager turned up, so a peer of mine. And we were in senior management, so you don't have a lot of peers. You don't have a lot of people that you can be friends with. And first month, we're very professional, we're very polite. And I think I sort of followed his lead a little bit. He was a very blokey bloke and loved some hardcore banter, horrific banter. If you follow cricket, essentially banter to the level of sledging. And I was up for it. I was very happy to set aside the professionalism and just give each other grief, because that suits my personality in the right circumstances as well. Him and I got on really well with this rough as guts banter. We had to be careful not to do it in front of other people who weren't in on it or weren't comfortable with it. But often as I wandered past his office for a chat or vice versa, it would be rough and ready banter. Until one day he used this slur, he used this term. He used it in the morning and I went, okay. Then he repeated it sort of about 11 o'clock, thereabouts. I went, okay, we've just found the line. We are now past the line. I'm not offended, but that's a bit too far. Back it off. And we now know how far too far is. And he's like, yeah, fine. He didn't call me that again. I wasn't offended, but I knew that he had taken the banter beyond a point I was comfortable with. I wasn't offended, but just that gut instinct of, I'm not super wild with that. That's where I got to. Ad time. And the ad here is an ad for ourselves. We at Pragmatic HRM are an HR training organisation very similar to what these podcasts are. Think of these podcasts as us handing out free supermarket samples. You just trying something out, seeing if you like it. If you do like it, hey, maybe come and buy the full meal. It's over there in the frozen section. Our HR training courses are offered primarily as webinars, and you can access them in two ways. You can access them in live online sessions along with other people, and we do a group learning session. Or alternatively, you can access them at your convenience at a lower price in recorded webinars. Have a look at those on our website, Pragmatic HRM, to see if we can help you learn how to think smarter, wiser, and better about the people problems that you deal with every day. So what is banter? Banter is a subset of joking. It is a subset of workplace humour. It doesn't have to necessarily be derogatory or offensive, but more often than not it is. It is small wind-ups. It is joking with people. It is baiting with one's tongue in one's cheek while talking to them. Does it happen in the workplace? Yes. Is it unprofessional? Yes. So what do we do about it? There's two rough options. You can either approach this with simplicity and say, that's bad, that's wrong, you can't do that, or you can take a nuanced approach. You can take the complex approach, which is hard, But on the other hand, it's reflective of what will happen anyway. Because this will happen in your career, either it has or it will, and very likely it will happen again, where someone said something, the other person was offended, and the defense is, I was just joking. It was just banter. So what are the things that you need to look for? Let's talk those through. Let me give you a simple stereotypical situation. This isn't going to be every situation in which you are going to have to turn your mind to the question of banter, but it's going to be a pretty common. And that is essentially this. We were joking and we were bantering and everything was fine until one day it wasn't, and then one day it went too far, or I was never really fine with it. I just tolerated it. Generally speaking, we are going to see the context and the defense of workplace banter in that situation. The person was either neutral on it or they were participating in it. And then one day they just sort of had enough. And I definitely don't want to blame the victim in this situation. I definitely don't want to say people just need to harden up, people just need to take a concrete pill. That's not the case. But what we don't want to do is just look at, okay, well, what did they say? Oh, that's a bad word. No, can't say that in the workplace. What we need to do is understand the context. I want you to think about the concept iterative. Married in with the concept of iterative, I want you to think about the concept of progressive. And thirdly, I want you to think about the question of reciprocated. Let's talk through those three concepts. The term iterative, a very simple definition of iteration is to do something, see if it is heading in the right direction, then do it again. Oh, that seemed to work. That seemed to go down well. I'll do more of it. It's this process of doing a thing based on the feedback that it is going well. That is how workplace banter goes. Someone does something and other people laugh or other people engage or other people seem to be fine or enjoy it, and so the person does more of it. So let's talk about the second concept of progressive. Sometimes people progress the level of banter. They progress how far away they go from that line of professionalism that we all know where it is and what it is. They go beyond progressively more with each iteration. Oh, well, one day I said this joke, and then I said a slightly more offensive joke, or a slightly more un-PC, or I wound that person up a little bit more. Thirdly, the concept of reciprocation. Was the other person also engaging with it? Were they also participating in the joking? So let me bring you back to the scenario because I think it's the perfect example. My personal scenario. That was a circumstance in which it was clearly iterative. We didn't just go from one day being professional and polite to both giving abuse. It slowly but surely escalated in an iterative and a progressive way. It escalated because we increasingly could see the other person is perfectly fine and enjoys it and finds it much more interesting conversation than professional and polite. The other side of it is that he crossed my line, but how was he to know that that was going to cross the line? And this is what I always say, is I don't know what I said to him earlier that day or the day before, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't far off. If his was 30 on the offensive scale, I'd said something at 28, 27 the day before. So what I couldn't fairly do is suddenly cry foul, suddenly go, whoa, I can't believe you said that. That's a 30. You shouldn't be saying that. The line is back at 0. Because I had been a fair and equal participant. Looking at that situation, okay, well, yes, he went further, but it's only between 27 and 30, not 0 and 30. Now I need to introduce another concept, because this is a complex one, and there's various different ideas. I can't tell you how to analyze these situations. I can't tell you what to decide. I can tell you what to look for. And the final concept that I want you to think about is knowing your audience. What does that mean? What is knowing your audience? In every workplace, in every context, in any social interaction, the obligation is on the sender to know their audience. If you don't get that right and you have gone beyond, the fault lies with you. If you make a joke and the person who you are telling it to is not fine with that joke, that's your fault. If someone overhears the joke, they may not be your intended, but they overhear it, that's your fault. And if they take offence, the responsibility lies with you, not with them. The asterisk to that is, I thought it was fine because we joke like this all the time. I think that there are some legs to that defence. How much does depend on the context. Someone can't suddenly go from minor jokes or minor banter to something outrageous and expect people to go, oh, you were fine with that. You should be fine with this. Maybe not. But on the other hand, the responsibility of knowing if something is going to be funny or offensive lies with the person telling the joke, but they are making a judgment call of their audience based on past history. And if their audience had given them reason to think that that was going to be fine, well, they got it wrong, but only by the iterative, incremental step. To keep that really simple, if someone gets a joke wrong, we shouldn't look at what is the difference between what they said and heightened professional conduct. We should look at the distance between what their audience was uncomfortable with and what the last joke that they were comfortable with. I have a final disclaimer on this. The final lesson from the story that I tell about when I went back to my colleague and said, okay, too far, line crossed, back it off, then we're cool. That's advanced level stuff. I'm going to put myself on a pedestal and say, I'm a very, very experienced, nuanced, level-headed professional. I know, I could see exactly what was going on because this is what I do for a living. This is what I've always done for a living. I know the complexities. I know both what the situation was going on and what the best way of handling it was. I knew that I could be perfectly fine with something, then go, okay, I'm not quite fine with that, and have that sensible adult conversation with my colleague and say, okay, that was too far, back it off, and then everything's fine. No muss, no fuss. You can't expect that level of professionalism. If someone can't do that for themselves, that's perfectly reasonable. We want people to be able to sort out their workplace dramas by themselves. They want to as well. But this is something that is beyond the majority of people. I would roughly say 30% of people can handle this themselves. Most people will need some hand-holding, either by their manager or by HR, to get this back to where they want it to be, where everybody wants it to be. More often than not, when it comes to workplace banter, we are facilitating that, getting people back to a comfortable space where they can work together and still talk to each other and still have fun in the workplace without things escalating out of control. More often than not, if you are dealing with a problem of workplace banter, you are just guiding people back to that level of comfort. You're not going over the top and issuing warnings, but nor are you saying to everybody, okay, go back to being cold and professional and polite at all times. At the end of the day, when it comes to workplace banter, it happens because people enjoy it. Sometimes it gets out of control. Often it's our job to turn up and say, right, what's the context? What's the iterative, progressive mistake? How do we get people back to where they can get on the way that they did before? Short outro today because I had so much to say in the main content. Anyway, have a look at Pragmatic HR Rem for all the things that we can help you with, all of the courses, all of the advice that we can give you, all of the services that we offer. If not, not a problem, but please just share us around social media so other people can get this free wisdom so they can have that little, oh yeah. But otherwise, I'll catch you next time.